Hello, everyone, and welcome to our introduction of the new MCT Business Intelligence platform. We're glad you're here joining us. As we usually do, we're just going to take about 2 or 3 minutes to let everybody get in the room here before we get started. Thank you. All right, let's get started. So for those of you who just joined us, welcome to our introduction of MCT's new business intelligence platform. We're so excited to bring you this new analytics tool that we've been working so hard on and really developed over the course of several years. So my name is Ian Miller. I'm the CMO here at MCT. Most of you are familiar with my work on these webinars and in general, so I'll be here, and then I'd like to introduce your other webinar presenters today. We've got Drew Peterson. He's a trader and a business intelligence analyst, and Drew has been a driving force behind the development of this new business intelligence platform for you. Welcome, Drew. All right. Also with us, we have Kristen McCarthy. Kristen is a business intelligence analyst. Kristen's worked really hard on this new platform as well. And you'll know Kristen from her work on the MCT Live workshops that she's done. She's also, given many of you one-on-one trainings and really supports making sure that our clients get the most out of MCT Live and all of our MCT products and services. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you, Ian.
All right, and last year we've got Bill Peterson. Bill wasn't able to join us today, but I had to keep him on the slide because Bill really has been the biggest proponent and developer of business intelligence at MCT. As the managing director of business intelligence, he's really been behind all of those different report sets that you've gotten, and really just an advocate for MCT clients, taking advantage of their data, gaining actionable insights from it, and becoming better secondary managers and better mortgage executives because of that. So thanks, Bill, for all your hard work that you've done on this platform. I know it's going to be a huge help to MCT clients. So with that, let's get into it. Our webinar today is going to cover a few areas. First, we'll be sharing a little bit of a history of business intelligence at MCT. We'll be sharing the process and data sources behind this new business intelligence platform. We'll be sharing the goals of the business intelligence platform and kind of the impacts that we hope they'll have in a positive way for you and your business. We'll be doing a platform demonstration covering a few areas of the platform. The platform has so much depth. We're going to kind of focus it in a few key areas, show you kind of at a high level and dive into a few key areas in a deep way. And there's a lot more to be covered once you get your hands on the platform yourself. Last but not least, we'll go over getting started with this new offering, and we'll have an opportunity for question and answer at the end. That said, if you have a question, we're happy to address that as we go. There's a little questions panel in the webinar controls, so feel free to chime in anytime, and we'll make sure we answer your question whenever we can. All right, so first, let's talk a little bit about the history of business intelligence at MCT. So in 2013, we had an influx of new investors back into the market, and that really led to a more competitive environment on the secondary market and lots of questions from MCT clients about color of different investors, the competitiveness of their pricing, the competitiveness of their delivery options. And so, the trading team at MCT found themselves answering lots of questions about that. And so it was kind of at that time that Justin Grant and some of the traders and Bill and others really realized that there was some real benefits to be had from the data and the visibility that MCT has on that secondary market. And so work really began then to provide that data as actionable insights in the forms of reporting. And so kind of the first of those static reports that were distributed came out in 2015 as the iMarket Monthly Review. Now, I hope most of you have experience with that report set. It covers your individual market of different investors and executions. It has kind of a monthly ranking of which investors had the most market share, as well as a variety of different statistics and insights on those investors, their pricing, their market share in different areas. And one of the kind of main components of those were these opportunity curves, and that's what you see in the bottom half of the screen here is an example of one of those opportunity curves. These opportunity curves show for a particular investor what an increase in pricing in basis points would lead to in increased volume delivered to them. And so this was kind of a breakthrough that we have to credit Justin Grant with, that really gave originators something to bring to the table in their conversations with investors. Hey, do you want to win more of my business? Well, look, here's a data-driven report on the increase in volume that you would get from me as a result of that. And so those reports have been a real value add for MCT clients ever since. They're still distributed every month, and they'll continue to be distributed every month. We kind of took that to the next level with the peer benchmark summary and the lender profile, which were released in 2017 as quarterly and annual reports, respectively. That peer benchmark summary really gave you a look for the first time into how your performance across a variety of metrics compared to a peer group based on volume and organization type, and to the MCT average as a whole. So you could really answer that question in a data-driven way. How does my performance compare to my peers? What am I missing out on? What opportunities are there for me to take advantage of with an adjustment to my secondary marketing strategy? And so those reports and the iMarket before them really led to the development of this new business intelligence platform, which started in 2019. Has been used internally by the MCT team throughout 2020, and is now being put in your hands as a new platform with its launch just a week or two ago. And so we're really excited for you to take advantage of the live components of this platform. You'll be able to customize the data and the reports in any way you want. And so the iMarket Monthly Review that we mentioned there will be continued to be distributed, but the resources that we were using to distribute those static peer benchmark summary and lender profile reports were really pretty significant to organize all those different components. So that those resources are now going to be dedicated to development of this new BI platform. Those reports won't be distributed on a static basis moving forward. Now, we do have a platform user guide for the new platform that'll illustrate how you can find those same exact reports that used to come on a static basis in the new platform, and there'll also be much more detail that you never could have gotten from the static reports before. So the last thing I want to say here is that you can see from this history of business intelligence that your input and your thoughts on what you need from your data have really driven every stage of the development of business intelligence at MCT. And now more than ever, we're looking for your input to drive that innovation. So we hope you'll embark on this next chapter with us, join the platform, and help us develop it and make it more useful together. With that, let's talk about the process and data sources for business intelligence at MCT. So as many of you know, the MCT pipeline represents about 20% of all loans going through the secondary market. And so, this new business intelligence platform gives you access to that data which really is a fairly representative sample of the entire mortgage market in the US. The data itself comes from MCT Live and is updated nightly, just like your mark-to-market reports for the previous day. A big part of the platform is this peer comparison component. And so you can see the peer groups that we currently have here and the peer counts for each of those groups. That peer count is based on an average over the last 6 months, and it gets updated every month. And we have plans to kind of, eventually potentially add some more granularity in terms of how those peer groups are organized. And so, the idea here is that with this representative sample data of the mortgage market, with this peer comparison component for you to look at how you compare to a peer group and to the MCT average, that's going to allow you to measure the daily impact of strategic changes that you make. It's going to be able to allow you to compare that impact to your peers and iterate further adjustments to fine-tune your strategy. So now that we've understanding the history behind MCT's business intelligence and the data behind it, let's talk about, what are the goals of this platform? What do we hope that you're going to be able to achieve using this platform? And so kind of first and foremost is improved loan sale pickup. This data, a big part of this data is sold loan data, measuring where your loans and the loans of your peers were sold in the secondary market. And so, identifying the strongest outlets, comparing your pricing to that of your peers, and finding new opportunities through that research is kind of one of the primary values of this platform that we hope that you'll find. Another one is providing expertise in building consensus internally. So each of you, whether as an executive or as a secondary manager at your organization, you really represent kind of a hub for knowledge for the entire rest of your organization about what's happening in the secondary market and what to expect, moving forward. And so a big part of this platform is helping you position yourself as that source of knowledge and helping you provide reports that you could share with a wider audience at your organization to kind of give color on why different strategic changes are happening within your secondary department, or maybe what your team can expect moving forward. So that's a key component that we hope you can build that internal consensus and act as that thought leader within secondary at your organization. Another one that's really relevant to this year that we've had is tracking liquidity and increasing your dexterity when it comes to periods of market volatility. I think we all went through that roller coaster earlier this year, and really at a few times, even later in this year, where market changes, stimulus, Federal Reserve actions, agency regulatory changes just whipsawed us, through different market periods. And so this platform has specific reports and tools that are designed to help you, measure that hedgeable product box, manage those risks to changes in the secondary market, and really react quickly and pivot your strategy during those market volatility periods. And then the last main goal that we have for this platform is comparing and improving performance relative to your peers. We really think that MCT clients who use and take advantage of the insights that can be found in this business intelligence platform will have a competitive advantage, moving forward. And a big part of that is kind of seeing and measuring what you're missing out on, whether it be different product sets, different investors, different geographic areas, different kind of boxes of credit and the borrowers that you serve. All of those components can be measured and sliced and diced in really fine detail on this new platform, as Kristen and Drew are going to show us. So yeah, with all that said, let's take a look at how these goals can actually be achieved through the new platform and through the new reports. So it's time for a demonstration of this platform. I think I've talked long enough here. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen and Drew, who are going to share a demonstration of this new platform with you. All right, Kristen, I just passed you the presenter role.
Great. Thank you, Ian.
Perfect. I can see the login screen just fine. I think everybody else can too.
Awesome. So I'll get started right away then. So initially, upon your login into our business intelligence platform, you're going to come upon and be directed to our landing page. One second there. Our landing page is going to be inclusive of some key data points from each of what we're calling our projects. So we have projects that are containing lock data, sold data, and capital markets data. And as Ian mentioned just a few minutes ago, the data is updated on a nightly basis. So when I log in as a client, I am seeing everything, all of my data up and through last night. And we can see here that it's going to tell us when that data was last updated. Starting with our lock data, what you'll see on the landing page is we're going to show you the number of locks that you brought in on that previous day, as well as the total volume of loans that you had locked. There will also be an indicator of if that amount or those values have increased or decreased from your prior day. Along with that indicator, you can also see here that it's going to show you on that prior day what those values were. So I can see here that yesterday I locked 15, but the day before I had actually taken in 31 locks. Right below that, you'll be able to see the number of units that you've brought in locks week over the last 4 weeks. Again, indicators here on whether there's an increase or decrease week over week. And then we're also going to show you what your top programs were that you had locked over the last 7 days. So when you just hover your cursor over any of those bars on your top programs, you'll then be able to see the amount of loan volume that you've taken in for that particular program. On our sold data, very similar, but now we're going to look at what we've been committing. So what I'm seeing here is how many loans I committed on my most recent best X analysis that I've conducted, along with the total volume that was committed. Again, here we have indicators of whether there was an increase or decrease from my prior best X analysis and what those values are. I'm also going to be able to see over the last 4 weeks what my volume has been that I've been committing on a week over week basis. And within the sold data, what we'll show you is who are my top investors that I'm selling to for the current week. So notice that we're showing the week of 10/11. And again, just hovering over that bar graph, I'll be able to see the amount of volume that went to each of my investors. And then lastly, for our capital markets data, we're just going to show you where those TBA pricing for the most popular coupons ended at the end of the business day, along with an indication of how that change was from the prior day. So not only is there the indication of whether there was an increase or decrease in that pricing for the coupon, but you're also going to be able to see how many basis points that increase or decrease was by. Down here at the bottom, we have what we like to call our hot link questions. So these are just some questions to pique your interest and guide you to specific dashboards where you're able to see the data that will answer these questions. Our first question that we're going to hop into is, what rates were originated by my peers? Whenever you see a question that is referencing your peers, it's going to direct you to a peer comparison workbook, whether that is for your lock data or your sold data. So I'll just click on that question. And notice now that my landing page has stayed here, but it's opening up a new tab for me to view that data for my rate distribution peer average. So within the BI platform, we have projects. So those, again, would be your lock data project, your sold data project, and capital markets data project. Within each project, we have what we like to call workbooks. So right now we have been linked to the lock volume peer comparison workbook. And then from there, we're on the rate distribution peer average dashboard. So a few things before we start to kind of dive into the data that we're seeing here that I just like to point out, because this will be uniform across all of the dashboards that you're going to be working in. Over to the right, we have the peer group. So this peer group is going to be determined by the amount of volume that you're committing on a monthly basis. And again, we're going to take an average of your volume over the last 6 months. So here's the indication of what peer group I'm getting slotted into. Across the top, you'll see all of the different filters that we're able to filter our data by. In most cases, these filters are going to always default to all. If there's some specific dashboards where we're talking about agency-specific data or a particular program, a lot of times those will default to that specific investor or program type. But in most cases, your data will always default to all. And then you have the ability to come in here and slice and dice this data, really dial in the way that you want to see and what you're actually looking for. Our lock date over here, so we're going to default to the last 4 weeks. And again, we're looking at our lock data and the rates that have been distributed over the last 4 weeks. But maybe I don't really care to see the last 4 weeks and I want to see the last 2 weeks. I'm just going to pop in here. I have the option to look at years, quarters, months, weeks, or days. I'm going to adjust my values down to the last 2 weeks, noticing now that my dates here have changed to show me what date range that's from. And now my data has updated to be able to show me what I've locked over the last 2 weeks. And also, because I have the peer group defaulting to all, what the MCT clientele as a whole has locked over the last 2 weeks. I'm not really concerned with seeing the whole MCT clientele group right now. I just want to see what the people in my peer group are doing. So I'm going to come over to the peer group filter and then just adjust and choose my peer group filter here. What's great about allowing you guys to be able to use the peer group filter is maybe you have some fluctuation in volume month over month or seasonally. Maybe 1 month my committed volume's falling in the 50 to 100 million a month range, but in the winter, if I'm on the East Coast, I'm more in the 25 to 50 million range. I'm able to just adjust these as I want to see them. So I don't have to just look at the 50 to 100 and a million. I'm able to go in and pick the specific peer group I want to see. Simply hitting apply will adjust, and now I can see what my peer group was and not the MCT clientele as a whole. Additionally here, I could dial in by state loan program. We have a program high and a whole program low. So this data gets very granular. So I'm looking at all of my rates as a whole, but right now I just want to look at maybe conventional, and I'll hit apply here. And then I'm also going to dial in to look at conventional 30-year. So now I'm looking at conventional 30-year data for my specific peer group. And one of the things that as a client, I noticed right away, I'm not originating anything at 2.99%, but my peer group is originating at 2.99%. Simply hovering over this bar graph, we're going to have a tooltip that pops up. And Drew's just going to hop in to describe a little more detail on what is included in these tooltips.
Guys, so all the peer comparison reports are based on a peer average. So you can see that second section in the tooltip shows all of the averages for the peer group. But in addition to that, we included the totals. So that's just a complete MCT aggregate. And it kind of gives you a little bit of compare and contrast between the average and the total, and just sheds a little more insight on all of the data that you're looking at.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. So again, I'm able to look here and see, what are my rates that are being originated and comparison to my peers. You can see some of my peers are originating some conventional 30 years, pretty low here. But that's the first part of our rate distribution peer average. Within each workbook, you'll see the different dashboards across the top. So now that I'm in this dashboard, I can click between any one of these dashboards. And one thing to point out is because I've set these filters here, next time I go into a different dashboard, and we'll just hop into this daily locks dashboard, my filters have now stayed the same. So if I wanted to change anything or view anything differently, I could click on this X here, and that would clear out my filter for loan program type and program type high, or I could come in and adjust the filters onto how I want to see that there. Just again, keeping this on conventional 30-year. If I'm looking day over day at the lock volume and count, I can hover my cursor over a specific bar graph, see how many loans that I've locked, what was my weighted average rate. So I can see last week on 10/9, my average rate for conventional 30-year was 2.7. My peer was at 2.891. So I know that I'm originating a little bit less than my peer group. That can help me to maybe adjust my margins if I want to, if I see that trend day over day that I have a lower rate, or just know that if my loan officers come to me and say, hey, our rates aren't low enough, this is a great tool to be able to go in and say, dial in on a specific rate that they're talking about, the program type, whether it's high or low. You can even get into FICO and LTV and be able to say, wait a minute, this is actually 20% of the mortgages in the United States, and this is what we're looking at as for our rate compared to our peer rate. So just a really great tool to help you even with things like that when working with your loan officers. The next dashboard that we're going to hop into will be our top programs. So now, because I'm coming into our top programs, I don't want to just leave this on conventional. So I'm going to clear out my loan program type filter as well as that conventional 30-year, because this is going to show me all of my top programs. What I'll do is I'll keep it on my actual peer group. What I'm now seeing here is a breakdown of our programs and how that works out, what ratio of our volume is going to each individual program. I can also see the ratios by occupancy and purpose. So my data is here to the left with our client data being, or our peer group data being over to the right. And right away, something that stands out to me as the client, I see that I'm doing about 62% purchase business originations, and my peer group is actually at 40%. So I'm almost 22% more purchase business than my peer group, which if I'm thinking as soon as these rates increase, I'm going to be a little bit better off since I have a higher purchase ratio than refinance ratio there. Down at the bottom, we'll see here our top products that we are originating. And what you can do here, we have it broken down by conventional, FHA, conventional 15. This little plus sign up by program, if I just click on that, now I'm getting even more granular. So now it's popped out and I'm able to see those specific details of the programs within the conventional 30-year program, within the govies. And again, just hovering over any of those bar graphs will give me additional details. So we've locked 32 loans in the conventional 30-year product, looking at what our weighted average rate is, the total volume there, and really just a lot of detail there as far as what our top programs are and looking at those in comparison to our peers. The next dashboard that we're going to look into will be specific loan officers. So if I want to see what my loan officers are doing, what they're originating volume, we have this great branch LO dashboard. So if you have multiple branches, it will identify those here, but if you just have one branch, it'll total your branch, and then it's going to show each of your loan officers and what their volume is that they're originating. Not only can you see their volume, but with that tooltip, you're able to see how many units they've locked as well. So just a great quick look to be able to see some additional details for your loan officers right at your fingertips. I'm going to pop back to our landing page, and now I'm going to go into what is the loan purpose distribution of the client base. So by clicking on this question, I've now been directed to our lock data project, the lock volume overview market trends workbook, and lock volume daily purpose. So now, because I'm in the overview market trends, I'm looking, as opposed to a peer, my data comparison to the peers, I'm just looking at the MCT clientele as a whole. Although if I did want to dial into a specific peer group, I could use the filter here and just look at a specific peer group that way. This dashboard is great. I'm able to see what's being originated as far as cash out, refinance, purchase, or rate and term. So really, really easy to look at that data. And again, you'll hear me repeat myself multiple times, but the tooltips are always great because you're able to just see some additional detail by looking at that specific data. And since we're in the overview workbook, we're going to check out a few other things here. So we have this great lock term average dashboard. And what we're looking at here is going to be what are the average lock terms for the loans being locked on a daily basis. So we can see that our dates still are defaulting to that 4-week time frame, but we could adjust that as needed. How these line graphs work, the thickness of the line is actually going to determine the fluctuation in volume. So the thicker the line on the graph, the more volume you're going to have there. The thinner the line, the less volume you'll see. Pretty standard where we can see that our purchase originations are locked for a shorter period of time than the refinances. But really, if I'm looking at this, not too bad that we're kind of getting those refinances done in under 60 days with the amount of volume that everybody's seeing these days. And again, that's MCT clientele as a whole. So if you wanted to see a specific peer group, you could dial in to what you wanted to see exactly. Next, we can look at the program breakdown. So this is going to be where we'll show you a lot more detail. So if you want to see specifically, and really the power of the filters here is what we want to express to you guys. So these filters, I always suggest, use them because it's going to make a lot more sense to look at specific LTVs and FICOs and rates for conventional 30-year or an FHA 30-year. Even the streamlines, you can dial in on program loan by streamlines. That kind of data will, be more relevant than be looking at the average as a whole. So encouraging everybody to use your filters because that's what makes this platform so great. And so the program breakdown dashboard is going to hone in on specific details so we can see the average loan size. We can see what the average credit score is. And notice that we're able to look at that day over day. So also, how are our rates fluctuating day over day, right? And again, this is the peer group, but you're able to see, are you in that range, Again, a great spot to be able to hone in on specific detail for your state. So maybe I'm in New England, I'm originating in New England, my LOs are there, and I can come in here and choose the specific states in New England that we're originating to, apply those filters, and be able to view that data based on the states that we are originating in. Popping back to our landing page. So the next hot link question we're going to pop into will be under our sold data. So how does my investor pricing compare to peers? Something that I think a lot of people always like to know or identify. Are my peers getting more than I am? So this first dashboard we're coming into, this is going to be our sold data project, sold loans peer comparison workbook, and investor pricing by rate. So what we'll be able to see here are the rates broken down, and again, that additional detail of our investors listed here, what that pricing looked like, average FICO, average LTV, average loan size. Again, this is going to default to the last 4 weeks, but maybe I just want to see where investor pricing was last week. And again, because that was a peer question, now I'm looking at my data in comparison to the peer data. So I'm going to pop on my committed date and just click on this previous week button here. Notice that my dates down here have changed to reflect the previous week. And so now I'm looking at data from the most recent week. And I'm able to see my committed data because we are in the sold data project. That's going to be all loans that are committed and going through the MCT Live platform. And so what has been committed? What am I selling my loans at? What am I getting for my loans? Additionally, here you can hover over any of these data points and be able to see how many loans were sold in particular. Again, that volume. So just some great detail there. The investor dashboard that we have within our sold loans peer comparison, this is great because I'm going to be able to identify, are there any investors that I should be selling to that I'm not selling to? So initially upon coming into this dashboard, you'll see a grand total rank over here. So this is overall, how are my investors ranking? And then it'll break out by program, but let's kind of dial in and see specifically. So I'm going to first change this back to the last 4 weeks. And now I want to focus in on, again, let's just look at our conventional, apply there, and our conventional 30-year. Perfect. So over the last 4 weeks, these are my investors that I've been committing conventional 30-year to. Right off the bat, what can I see? So me and my peers, or the MCT group overall, we're all committing to Fannie Mae. Let's dial in on our specific peer group too. So let's just look at that 50 to 100 million range. So Fannie is our top investor, no big surprise there, especially this year. But what I noticed next is that my peer group is coming in second is PennyMac. They're selling a lot of volume to PennyMac, and I do actually not have PennyMac as an investor. So this might trigger me to say, hey, maybe that's something that I should be looking into. Maybe I should look into, I could hop into the investor pricing dashboard and look at PennyMac specific pricing for my peer group before I even go through the trouble of getting them signed up. I want to see some specific data, and I could use the dashboards within this workbook to see those things. So just a great reference for how your investors are ranking. Are you missing out on any investors? And getting specific on those product types as well. Another great dashboard that we have here are investor turn times. So if we just come to investor turn times, and since that's not super specific to loan program or program type, I'm just gonna clear that filter out here. And maybe even just look at the MCT clientele as a whole. So what do my turn times look like? Just so you all know, the turn times are being determined on from when the loan is committed until when it's purchased. So we're not actually looking at the ship date, we're going off of the committed date. But if you're familiar with how fast your post-closing department is working and getting those loans out, this should be a fairly accurate representation of what those turn times are. And so what I can see right away, here are my turn times here, 15, 16 days. Looking down at my peer group, it looks like they have some faster turn times. Maybe these are some investors that I'm not selling to, but even if I'm looking at Fannie Mae, so my peer group or the MCT clientele as a whole, their Fannie loans are getting purchased in 8 days. My Fannie loans are getting purchased in 16 days, so double that time. Maybe that's something that I need to look into. Is that something on our end that's causing that? Is it my shipping department, our loans sitting? But really great to be able to identify what that looks like in comparison to my peers and where I'm measuring at. The faster those loans are off your books, the better. So a great tool to be able to identify things like that. The next one we'll hop into, the next dashboard is going to be time in hedge. So this is going to show us how long your loans are in the hedge from when they come into the hedge as a new locked loan until they are committed. So we break that out by program. You're able to see by program how long those loans are sitting in your hedge pipeline, as well as we're showing you in comparison to your peers by purpose. So this is really great. I mean, if I'm this client, I can see that in general, the time my loans in the hedge are actually a little less than my peer. And that's a great thing for me to be able to identify. You can also here see over time, average time that they are in hedge on this line graph by a particular program as well. Just gonna hop back to my landing page now. So this next hot link question, what investors are buying low FICO Govy loans? Let's hop into there. So the first thing I'm going to do, so because I'm looking for what investors are purchasing low FICO government loans, I'm going to put my filter to Govy and apply. And it's automatically set for my Y and X axis. So I can see my investors listed here. The FICO ranges are across the top. So the first thing I can see, we don't really have much data here, but I'm just going to scroll all the way down because my totals will be at the bottom. So although it's only one loan, we do have one investor that has MCT clientele as a whole is purchasing in this 500 to 579 range. Not too much volume in the 580 to 599. I'm going to actually filter out and look at some specific FICO buckets. So let's just look at the 600, 620, 640 to 659 and apply here. I'm going to scroll back up. And now I'm going to sort so I can see who's at the top. So in this lower FICO tier of 600 to 619, looks like the majority of that volume is going to Ginny. And then next here, and this is going to be a little plug for our BAM marketplace for those of you who are or maybe not utilizing it, I can see that Essex Mortgage is actually taking a decent amount of volume in that lower FICO range. So if I can't sell direct to Fannie, I'm coming in, I'm kind of looking at this data here. Maybe I'm not selling direct to Fannie, but I would have the option through MCT to use BAM Marketplace and be able to sell my loans in that lower FICO range to Essex, which is just really great to be able to identify those different outlets for some of the loans that might be a little more difficult and not all investors are purchasing at this time. So just some great data that you're able to see there as far as getting pretty specific. You could dial in and look at maybe conventional high balance with higher LTVs, just using your Y and X axis to filter out how you want to see that data is a great tool to be able to use. Since we're in here, one thing I do want to point out, so we're now in the sold data, back into the sold data workbook, but instead of in the peer comparison, this has brought us to sold loans, overview, investors. So this will be MCT clientele as a whole, and it brought us to that loan characteristic change. Within this, there's some really great dashboards. So this investor bar chart by month, this is where I'm going to be able to see where the volume is going month over month. So let me just clear out my filter here. I'm going to clear out my FICOs. So that goes back to all. And this is great. Okay, I'm seeing September and we're, halfway through October. But what I really want to see is maybe what has happened this year. How has the volume fluctuated through the investor set this year? What we'll see, when I'm looking at this right away. So maybe I'm not selling to Fannie and I don't have my Fannie approval. Well, that was fine in the month of January and even February when the aggregator, PennyMac was taking more volume than Fannie. AmeriHome was right behind, right? Wells Fargo too. But once we hit that March period, and then you can just see it skyrockets from March on. Fannie just became a huge standout where that wasn't really the case prior to the virus. And so maybe if I don't sell direct to Fannie, I'm able to look at this and say, wow, that really did make a difference for clients to be able to have that outlet. And that's going to push me to start going to get my approval with Fannie. So just some really great detail there. Especially too, like if you're looking for, this is another great tool to be able to use if you're looking to add additional investors that you might not have. Using this bar graph and seeing what volume is being committed to them each month is really telling us if it's worth your time to be able to add them. The next graph that we'll pop into, or the next dashboard, is this pricing by investor graph. So this dashboard, you're able to come in, and I'm just going to come and pop back to weeks over here. And what you can do here is you can choose your specific investor set or any investor that you may be interested in adding. And now you can see what their pricing looks like. Maybe you want to hone in on some of those Govy investors. You could look specifically for and filter out for government programs and then apply those filters to be able to look and see what their pricing looks like. Again, the tooltip is a great tool because that's going to give you those weighted average rates and pricing, also the total volume and loan count. So you're able to see those details there. And then one more dashboard here that we'll take a look at, this program breakdown by date. Again, and this looks very similar to what we looked at in our lock data. but just some great additional detail as to average loan size, average FICO, LTV, rate, and pricing. You can really hone in on what that data looks like and get some specific details as to what we're seeing day over day. Coming back to our landing page, next I'm going to go into, is it time for a rate renegotiation? I know how much we all love when rates are renegotiated, but this is actually going to be a really helpful tool for you guys. So we're looking at loans committed over the last 2 weeks. This is going to be MCT clientele as a whole. So these are all the loans that are going through MCT Live. You could dial in on specific investors if you'd like. This dashboard is best used dialing in on specific programs. So notice we are in the capital markets project, the rate renegotiation workbook, and the rate renegotiation dashboard. So just looking at October 13th. So what do I want to look for here? How is this going to help me? Well, right away, visually looking at this, I can see if I have loans locked in my pipeline. And again, this is based off of sold data. But if I'm looking for loans that are locked in my open pipeline, if I have anything at that 3.25, 3.375 range, what is this telling me? That these lower rates, right? 2.99, 2.875, even 3% are actually more profitable than these few rates that are higher. So I could very easily renegotiate my borrower's rates down and still be able to profit out of that. So really makes this an awesome and easy tool to identify those loans that if you have people coming back at you saying they need a lower rate, hop into this system, see where those loans are being sold, see how much that's going to cost you, or if you have the opportunity to renegotiate them down and actually be more profitable. Just a really awesome tool there. And then our last hot link question, and I've used this a ton this year, what do mandatory to BE spreads look like? So again, this is going to bring me to our capital markets project. Because we're talking about spreads, and this is specifically bringing me to the conventional 30-year mandatory to BE spreads, showing us over the last 8 weeks. But again, if I wanted to, I could adjust this committed date. And if it's me, I'm choosing my specific investors that I'm selling to when I come in here, or using this to be able to see new investors that I want to add. What are their spreads looking at, like their BE2 mandatory price? Your black line is going to be an average overall of all the investors that you've chosen here. But then just being able to see what those spreads are. So this is North Point. We can see they still have some pretty significant spreads here on their conventional 30-year, but definitely looks like AmeriHome has kind of, shrunk up their spreads, especially from what they were previously. And just over the last 8 weeks, notice how those are kind of going down. But again, a great tool to be able to see, right, everybody's always, or a lot of maybe even new clients wondering, is it worth it to be hedging? Well, these spreads are going to tell you that, yes, it's always worth it to be hedging in most cases. So great tool there. You also have the option to see that for government. And then we have a table that will show you some great additional detail for those spreads. Since we're in here, just the last dashboard that I want to show you guys before we kind of wrap up this quick demo is in the capital markets project. We have agency aggregator bid pricing graphs. So these are really great. So we'll just hop into the Fannie versus aggregator graph. What I'm able to do here, so notice that it's going to default directly to conventional. I can choose my specific investor set, and because I'm talking specific to Fannie versus aggregator, it's going to automatically check off Fannie Mae for me under my investor set. But then I can come in and choose any investors that I want to see. And what it'll show me is out of all these investors that I've chosen in my filter, I'll get this black line, which will be an average of my investors that I've chosen. And then what does that look like in comparison to Fannie Retained, Direct, or S&P? And so just being able to kind of see how that pricing is working. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen that just that Fannie pricing has really, especially since March and the virus, has really kind of been on top of the aggregator pricing. And so if you're somebody that's thinking about adding Fannie and being able to sell to them, a great way to be able to see what's going on with their pricing there. But yeah, so Ian, that kind of wraps up what we had for our demonstration today.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent demonstration, Kristen and Drew. Thank you both. We did have some good questions come in. So I do just want to address a few of those. One was, does the data include BE locks or just hedged? At this time, it's just hedged data in this platform. Another one we had asked was, versus peers, can we see the LO buy side price that others are originating loans at by interest rate program, etc.? There is some development in the works to answer that question and add that component to the platform. So yeah, at this time, feel free to chime in with any other questions you might have through that questions function as I get us switch back over to finish off the presentation here. All right, perfect. Let's see. All right, so now that we've gotten a demonstration, we've got a good idea of the goals and what you can do with the platform. Let's talk about getting started. For this new business intelligence offering, we are currently going to have an introductory price of $500 per month for a 2021 annual contract, or you can get the platform for $600 a month on a monthly basis. There are no onboarding fees, and its setup is immediate since it leverages the data in MCT Live, where all MCT Hedge clients are currently set up. The new offering also includes kickoff training and consultation with the BI team. Kristen and Drew have been here, also Bill Peterson and other members of the MCT team. And Kristen and Nicolette have developed an excellent platform user guide that's ready to help you take full advantage of this platform right from the beginning. So if you're interested, and we hope you are, reach out to your MCT representative to sign up for this client exclusive offering. With that, I'll open up to questions and remind you that Drew, Kristen, Bill, and myself, as well as the whole MCT team, are available to you with questions, comments, or assistance anytime. Anybody else have a final question? I haven't seen any new ones come in. All right, well, with that, that's the conclusion of our webinar today. Thanks so much for joining us to see this new business intelligence platform and what it can do for your business. We hope you will reach out to try out this platform. We know that it will have a big positive impact for your business and represent a new competitive advantage for you over your peers. Thanks again, Kristen, Drew, Bill, and the whole rest of the team. We'll talk to you guys again soon.